Have you ever heard the value of having a strong core? Have you ever thought to yourself, I need to build a strong core? My goal today is to give you the keys to authentically build a strong, functional core in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. Here are core principles, given that we exclusively work with people in their 50s and primarily people in their 60s and early 70s. We firsthand have seen the value of helping people develop a strong core and have developed a real key set of tools to allow people to do that. And so I'm going to share those with you today. But first, what we found are the really two beliefs, limiting beliefs, that we got to knock down in order to better enable to actually build you this strong core. First, you don't have to get a burn like the old school burn you used to get when you did crunches in order for it to be effective. In fact, you probably don't need that at all ever. Second thing, harder is not better. Better is better. There's a natural inclination for all of us to just choose the harder exercise because we think that's going to be better or it's going to get us where we want to go more quickly. That just proves not to be true, particularly because we want to set up a strong foundation first. We wouldn't rush to build an awesomely big house without first ensuring that we have a strong foundation. So we want to make sure that we have the solid foundation because the purpose of the core, right, is to make us strong and stable in the middle of the body. We can't do that if we're doing exercises that are way too challenging for us. So one of my goals today is to show you how to modify core exercises, to show you what some of the appropriate exercises are to build that foundational level so that your core can function as it's supposed to, help you stand up nice and tall and proud, allow you to carry heavy things, help give your body that shape that you're looking for, and just literally take on all the weird things that life throws at you. So here we go. I'm going to show you each of the most promising, most capable, most effective core exercises that you can do in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. All right, so here are our core activities. Before we launch into that, we got to discuss a couple things and get you comfortable with a couple things so that you can actually execute these well and build the authentic core strength that we're actually talking about. First, we got to make sure you're breathing and able to breathe even in challenging positions. I know it's pretty common for people to hold their breath when things get hard, particularly when doing core exercises. You may even been told in the past to brace your core when you're doing core exercise. I'm going to advise you against that. What I want you to get comfortable with is an ability to create some tension in your abdominals exclusively through your exhale. So what you may practice first here is taking a couple breaths. I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to do totally nothing on the inhale, totally relaxed. Pat's going to take an inhale. And then on the exhale, I want him to get comfortable with this whole idea of letting his upper body shrink as he exhales. You may notice his chest drop, his ribs are going to come in. He'll probably even start to feel some abs towards the end of that exhale. Yes, abs just from exhaling. He's not intentionally bracing those abs. He's just authentically exhaling. Imagine you got a pin in a balloon and he's just letting all that air out. You might be able to hear Pat's exhales. His goal is to exhale for 10 seconds. That may seem long. You may not get to 10 seconds on your exhale when you first start this. I guarantee if you practice it, you will work up to it. Don't try and overthink it. Get comfortable with getting all the air out. All right, now that we've got the breathing covered, the next thing we're going to talk about real briefly is a hip tuck, a back pocket hip tuck. Pat's going to do a couple of them. I've linked in here a more detailed explanation of the hip tuck, but it is an important piece for you to be able to execute great core strengthening exercises. Great. So Patrick is doing a couple hip tucks for us. I'm going to pause him right there, and we're going to go into our plank, our elbow plank, and I'm going to help you cue this up so you can get the absolute most out of it. All right, Patrick's got his shoulders directly over his elbows. And when he's ready, he's going to tuck those hips just a little bit, lift the knees a few inches off the ground. Lovely. This is his plank position. You don't need completely straight legs. In fact, his are bent quite a bit. That's great. He's maintaining that hip tuck. He's driving his elbows through the mat to get his chest away, and he's working for breaths. Instead of just holding there or holding his breath, he's counting his breath cycle. So he may be there for 2 to 3 breaths. He may start with just 2 breaths. Great. I'm going to have Pat come down. So I know planks are sort of the tried and true traditional core exercise, but frankly, they are too challenging for many people at the beginning. Nothing wrong with that. Again, we talked about what's most important is that we get you in the right position so that you can authentically build your core. So for most people, in all of our experience here, doing a plank from the knees is going to be a much better position for them to begin in. So Patrick's going to show that for us. We're going to get our back pocket tuck the same way we did before. Great. So his knees are on the ground now. He's still pressing through the elbows to get his chest up away from the ground. And he's going to breathe right here. I guarantee you he's feeling lots of stuff in those abs right now. And so that is a perfect modification of a traditional elbow plank. All right, number 2 for us is what we call the fighting dead bug. So Pat's going to show us what that looks like. He'll get his feet up into this dead bug position to get started. He's going to take his hands, his palms, and press them right into the bottom of his thigh. And this is his position. He's not going to move from this position, but he's going to now add in the breaths that we talked about earlier. So before he starts, he'll take a nice slow inhale through his nose. As he starts to exhale and get all that air out, he's going to use the strength in his arms to try and push his knees away, while at the same time, he's using his leg strength to try and fight against his hand. When he runs out of air from that first breath, he'll pause for a second, take another inhale, and have that fight again. This is the fighting dead bug, pressing hard into his legs. Legs are pressing back into his hands, and I guarantee you he's creating a whole boatload of tension right there in his abs. All right, third activity is a progression from that fighting dead bug that Pat just showed us so wonderfully. So we're going to get him up in his dead bug position. He's got a nice long reach. His fingertips are going to the ceiling, grabbing $100 bills off the ceiling. His knees are queued up right above his hips. He'll take a big old inhale, and then he'll slowly dip one leg into a bucket of hot water. Great, and pull it back up. And that is an important piece. He's not just dumping that leg to the ground. He's controlling it, truly thinking about how quickly would you go if there was a bucket of hot water there? You didn't know how hot it was, so you'd really be gentle about how you put your foot in that water. The key piece, the most key piece, as Pat lowers his heel towards the ground, he's ensuring that his lower back stays flat. If you allow your lower back to lift as you drop that heel, you're going to lose the tension in the abs, and most of it's going to go in the lower back. No big deal, except you're not going to be able to build the core strength that you are here to do. Our fourth activity is what we call the bear. We got Patrick set up in all fours here. He's got his knees directly under his hips. He's got his shoulders over his wrists. The first thing he's going to do is this back pocket tuck that we talked about earlier to set his position. He's going to ensure his arms are really long and strong. Love it. Okay, when he's ready, he's going to lift his knees 2 inches off the ground, and he's going to go back to the breaths that we've been working on. Big old inhale fills up this entire area with air, and a long exhale or squeeze and all that air out. Pat's working hard to keep his arms nice and long and his hips tucked. And again, we're holding for breaths. Great, come on down. So there you have the 4 most effective, efficient core strength building exercises, particularly for folks over 50. We've been using these tried and true activities for years now, and they do such a wonderful job of making your core strong. I'm going to provide some comments below that'll give you some suggestions on how to build and ramp this up over time, but also a place to start with the appropriate number of breaths or the approximate number of breaths you can use and how many times you can go through this little mini core building circuit. And if you have questions, of course, please ask. Thanks.